The creepiest version of this song ever. Got a few extra vowels in this version. That orangutan is the chosen one.
We think it's very nice to know your alphabet. And at New York's Great Bronx Zoo, A stands for A-N-D-Y, Andy, and here he is, a 3.5-year-old baby orangutan from the island of Borneo. Andy doesn't know anything at all about the alphabet.
Andy knows only terror at the hands of his human captors.
Whose names begin with alphabet letters from A to Z. A is for Aoudad, a kind of wild sheep.
It was the most obscure animal we could come up with.
Northern Africa. Just see
or the
how
Bronx.
fast it can run.
Come on, guys, run. You're embarrassing me.
B is for bear, and especially for the big white polar bears that live near the North Pole.
You know them from the Coca-Cola commercials and Al Gore's PowerPoint presentation.
Andy's friend shows him just how they do it.
Andy's friend is in the special programming pairing special needs adults with baby animals.
They have a barrel to play with, and on very hot days they dive and splash and play all day
Jeez, can't get this
long.
keg tapped.
They don't mind the heat at all. C comes next, and C stands for camel. Children ride on camels in the Bronx Zoo and have lots
C
of
stands
fun.
for communicable
This kind of
disease
camel
carried by the
comes
camel's
from
parasites.
The Arabian desert, and Andy and his friend are going to take a camel ride and pretend they're crossing the hot sands of the desert.
What sort
This
of
is
hideous
probably
abomination
the
is
first time
this?
a baby orangutan ever took a ride on a camel.
At least one as heavily sedated as Andy.
Next is the letter D, and D is for deer. This is a kind of deer called Père David's deer that used to live in China. These are the only ones in the United States.
Where they've applied for political asylum.
What does E stand for? Why, E is for these playful young African elephants. Let's listen
I
to
thought that
them.
was an oliphant. Why, that's not my voice at all, sir. I resent your misrepresentation of me for some other poorly voiced elephant.
F is the letter that stands for frog. Andy doesn't like frogs. He's getting out
Andy
of there
flinches
quick.
at the
It's
slightest
just a
movement from his
common
cruel
old bullfrog,
master.
Andy, it won't hurt you.
Look, I had a
Andy
bad
isn't
experience
sure
once
about
I'd rather
that,
not talk
but
about.
he knows his friend won't let the frog jump at him. G is for gibbon, a kind of
G is
ape
for
that
getting
lives
things
in
done at the
lake.
last
Just
minute.
Listen to its call.
We can build him faster, gentlemen. Monkey ear.
G also stands for giraffe, the tallest animal in the world. Some giraffes are 3 times taller than a man. In Africa, it eats leaves, but in the Bronx Zoo, it likes a piece
Sir,
of
do you know how
grass.
tall you were
It's
standing
going
back
to
there?
bend way, way down to get it. Did you ever see a giraffe bend down?
Yes,
This
but
is
I was
the way
tricked into
he
watching
does
that
it.
video.
Here comes the letter H, and H stands for the hippopotamus of Central
Hey,
Africa.
easy, I was just yawning.
This one is named Pete, and he's the oldest hippopotamus in any zoo in the world. He
When I was a
born in
young hippo, we
1903.
had to eat cabbage
He
on our
liked to
own.
eat cabbage for breakfast. I stands for a very pretty bird, the scarlet ibis of South America. When hundreds of scarlet ibises perch in a tree, it looks as if the tree were in bloom with red flowers.
But deforestation has solved
Jaguar
that problem.
begins with J, and that's our animal for this letter. Andy wants to see the jaguar. He'll like this one in the Bronx Zoo because it's gentle and friendly.
Ha! That's what I want you to think.
What
Orangutan.
does K stand for, Andy? Why, K stands for the kangaroo that comes from Australia.
Maytag
on the
Repairman
other
has a
side
second
of the
job at the
world.
zoo.
This one has a baby kangaroo in her pouch, and she carries it with her everywhere.
Yeah, but she can never find her keys
Now
when she
watch
needs
the
them.
baby play hide and seek.
Watch the baby shrink from the touch of man.
L stands for the African lion. So Andy and his friend go to see the African
Andy and
plains
his life
exhibit in the
partner.
Bronx Zoo. They want to hear the lions roar. Did you ever hear a lion roar?
Appear to be
Listen.
somewhat disappointed, Andy. Oh, jeez. Okay, that is really annoying, Gary. Stop. Quit it. Quit following me.
for marmoset, a kind of little monkey that lives
Almost
in
dead
South
Mopens,
America.
animal equivalent.
At first, the babies ride on the backs of their fathers and mothers.
Before long, they
soon
have the
learn to
driver's
play by
permit.
themselves. Don't they hop around like little frogs?
Or marmosets.
In Andy's alphabet, N stands for Nyala, one of the pretty antelopes that live in Africa.
Andy's alphabet
All
includes
these
another
Nyalas
N-word
are
that landed
brothers
him
and
in a
sisters.
cultural sensitivity class.
O is for orangutan, and that's what Andy is, of course. Now Andy's pretending he's shy and he's going to try to hide. But we know where he is. We see
Andy
you,
attempts
Andy.
to escape, disguised as an Arabian tourist.
O also stands for ostrich, the biggest bird in the world. It can't fly, but see how fast it can run.
See what happens when it gets into the cold medicine? Oh god, my heart is racing.
He
That's
is for
fine, Gary,
penguin,
just
and
leave
that's
it.
another kind of bird that can't fly. This is a king penguin that lives down by the South Pole.
Yes,
It can
now it's the
swim
penguin's
underwater
turn for
faster than
glory.
a fish.
Now it is time to demonstrate my...
There
Hey!
aren't many animals whose names begin with Q, but there's the quail, a bird that lives in the fields. Someday, when you're out in the country, maybe you'll see one.
In the mouth of a Labrador retriever.
Next is R, and that's for rhinoceros that lives in Africa. He likes to stir up the dust with his nose, and then
just
he
have a piece of
walks
gum
over
on
to
my
beg
horn.
for apples. He likes apples as much as you do, and Andy and his friend are giving him some.
R is for reckless endangerment of zoo patrons.
S is for sea lion. Let's listen to it bark.
Now let's get sick of it.
S also stands for skunk, and that's one animal Andy's sure he doesn't want to make friends with. One look and one sniff, and Andy's getting out of there. And when Andy doesn't like something, he makes a face about it.
And posts on his blog.
In the Bronx Zoo, T is for tiger, and especially for this beautiful, gentle mother tiger who was born in the Bronx Zoo.
Compliments will get you nowhere, meatbag.
This is
Terrible
the drawing
caricature.
of a tortoise, T for tortoise. And Andy's learning all about it because he's going to take a slow, easy
No,
ride
don't
on one
make
of these
me.
big tortoises from the Galapagos Islands. They won't bite Andy because they only eat leaves and cactus and green things like that. But Andy isn't too sure it's safe. Hang on, Andy. It's a long way to the ground. It's almost
Don't mock
2
me.
feet. U is for a very rare sort of bird, the umbrella
yes?
bird that comes from South America. It's called that because it can spread the feathers on top of its head like opening an umbrella. At certain seasons, the male puffs out his throat like this.
And that's pretty much it. That's it.
V is for another bird, the North African eared vulture. It isn't very pretty, is it?
Hey, I have a good personality.
But there's another kind of vulture that is pretty. This is the king vulture that lives in Mexico.
I mean,
and
I think
part
it's
of South
really
America.
pretty. Disturbingly pretty.
After V comes W, and that's for the wolf. There used to be lots of wolves in the United States, but they only live in out-of-the-way places now, and they're not dangerous to people.
Which is the only thing that matters.
X is a hard letter to find an animal for, but these are Xenopus frogs, spelled Xenopus.
Got
The
that?
man is going to take one out of the tank and hold it in his hand so you can see it.
The
These
man has
frogs
been
come
keeping
from
down the African frog for too long.
For the letter Y, we have the long-haired yak from Tibet. I wouldn't want to wear long hair like that in summertime, would you?
Oh, get me back to the tundra, please.
Everybody knows that Z stands for zebra. And that's
Saved
the
from
last
biological
letter in
obscurity
the
by
alphabet.
being that Z
We've gone
animal.
all around the Bronx Zoo looking at the animals from A to Z, and that's the end of Andy's animal alphabet.
Help!
Andy says,
It's even creepier the second time.